My question is going to be about the Israel-Palestine issue, and let it be known that I'm not a big from the river to the sea kind of person. My question is about your claim about Israel always having its doors open to peace for a two-state solution, and I just don't think this narrative is true. I don't think that any Israeli prime minister since Yitzhak Rabin has really had their doors open for peace. And Yitzhak Rabin, the most open for peace Israeli prime minister of all time, was shot by an Israeli extremist who was motivated by Jewish fundamentalism, which as a Jew I find really appalling that was the closest we've ever got to peace, and it was our very own religious fundamentalists that stopped that from happening. I don't think that Israel does currently have its doors open for peace. Benjamin Netanyahu has made his voice opposed to the two-state solution very often. Israel is under the control of a minority settler population who are not willing to give up on the land of Judea and Samaria, which is land that needs to be given up in order to achieve peace. So I just don't think this is true. And yes, I don't think Hamas has its doors open for peace either. But this does not change the fact that Israel is culpable for also this current situation in which it is not willing to negotiate because it views the entire land as its own. Look at the nation-state law. The Judea, Samaria, Golan, everything, it's all meant to be exclusive Jewish sovereignty.
Okay, so let's talk about the history for a second. To suggest that the last Israeli prime minister who's in favor of peace was Yitzhak Rabin, I'm sorry, but it's just historically inaccurate. Shimon Peres, who was Yitzhak Rabin's partner in the peace plan, was prime minister. Ehud Barak, who is so far to the left that he makes Yitzhak Rabin look like a piker, was the prime minister and offered a peace deal in 2000. Ehud Olmert offered an incredibly generous peace deal, much greater even than the 2000 peace deal, rejected by Arafat and Mahmoud Abbas. So that's just historically inaccurate. The idea that Yitzhak Rabin was simply willing, even at the time, this is not even what the Oslo Accords say. The Oslo Accords really kind of embody some of the things that I was saying about a gradualistic process of surrender of some parts of the land, which is why you still have areas A, B, and C. When it comes to the idea that Israel as a whole is somehow culpable for a terrorist group that calls for its extermination, running into its center and murdering 1,500 Jews is deeply immoral. That's deeply immoral. You're not talking about people who are arguing in favor of some sort of land for peace settlement. The people who ran in are arguing for the extirpation of every Jew from the region. Every Jew. And as far as the idea that Israel is somehow ethnically intolerant as opposed to its neighbors, that's untrue as well. Israel is 20% Arab. Gaza has 0 Jews. 0. The Palestinian Authority has 0 Jews living under its authority, nor could they be trusted to have Jews living under their authority, given the fact that when Jews accidentally drive into Ramallah, they're in danger of being lynched, which is certainly not true of the tens of thousands of Palestinians who every single day are given work permits into Israel, including, by the way, people from the Gaza Strip who had work permits into Israel, some of whom then went back and gave information to Hamas on the specific locations and number of people in each house in these various moshavim, those are the villages, in the Gaza envelope. So to suggest that it's Bibi Netanyahu's fault that Hamas murdered 1,500 people, again, ignoring the fact that Hamas has been firing rockets on Israel continuously for about a 17-year period at this point, spanning governments of both the left and the right. Bibi Netanyahu wasn't even prime minister a year and a half ago. It was Yair Lapid, who is very much to the left. So to make the argument that somehow Israel has a responsibility to make a quote-unquote two-state solution with the current partners is totally crazy. Who's the partner? It would be one thing to argue if there was a liberal-minded partner that actually sought peace. But what you're talking about is a Palestinian Authority. The most liberal partner that is there is the Palestinian Authority, which right now, today, is paying Hamas terrorists a stipend for having killed Jews. Those are not people you can make a peace deal with.
I mean, I understand that Hamas is not a group you can make peace with, but I do think that Israel has made a concerted effort to destroy every group it could possibly make peace deal with. In 2019, Netanyahu said that the best way to stop Palestinian statehood, which is his aim, was to fund and empower Hamas in order to further the divide between Gaza and West Bank. This is what he believed should be done in order to prevent Palestinian statehood. And second, when you talk about Ehud Barak, as being a leader who was very willing to open a peace deal, I think that the reason why the 2000 peace deal failed was because ultimately Israel was not willing to give up control over the Temple Mount, which is for Muslims the Alaska compound, which is something as a secular Jew I think should have been given up in order for peace. But I can understand that religious people might struggle with that. But at the same time, I think that Arafat was under a condition where he could not have given up permanently sovereignty over Alaska compound because he would have had a fatwa against him.
Okay, so your argument is actually my argument, which is that Arafat could not have accepted a peace deal offered to him because his own people would have murdered him for having made any sort of peace deal, which, by the way, I agree with. I think
Not
that's
any
true.
sort of peace deal, a peace deal that gave up the Temple Mount. And I would have liked...
Okay, so the idea that, first of all, we should point out that having been on the Temple Mount multiple times,
I've tried. I dressed up as a Muslim to try and get onto the Temple Mount.
Well, yeah,
there's a picture of that happening.
By the way, you don't. So, if you'd like the hookup, I can make it happen. It's not difficult. All you have to do is walk up a particular tunnel, and you can go out onto the Temple Mount. Anyone can, but only Muslims can pray there. Only Muslims can pray on the Temple Mount. That is the current law.
I went on the wrong day. It wasn't open to foreigners that day. But I tried anyway.
I'm just telling you, it is a fact of the matter. I've seen people arrested for attempting to pray, to open a prayer book that is in Hebrew on the Temple Mount. Only Muslims can pray on the Temple Mount. The Islamic Waqf is in technical control of the Temple Mount. So to put aside the politics of the Temple Mount for a second, once again, the argument that I'm making is that there is no party on the other side. Please name the party on the other side with which the Israelis should currently negotiate.
Not currently, because as I've said,
so then Israel
has tried. Israel has assassinated leading Arab academics, leading Palestinian academics. During the Nakba in 1948, Israel kept largely rural areas in the Galilee intact, but they went after urban areas where there were Palestinian academics. There had been a concerted effort to make sure that I think...
You're saying the war strategy of the Israelis in 1948 was to go after Palestinian academics?
Not academics. They went after urban Palestinian life.
It turns out that wars typically take place in heavily urbanized areas and not in open fields.
I mean, it was a largely rural area at the time, so I don't think that's right either. So,
Ben Shapiro and some other Israelis people who are going around these lines have made sure that they maintain the same lines in every single conversation. Sometimes I feel like they are reading from a teleprompter, or they must have really memorized their lines very well. In fact, they are very, very talented actors. And like the student in this video just pointed, Israel always spare no effort to blame Palestinians, or aka Hamas, for not willing to seek for peace. And according to Israel, they are the ones who have been seeking for peace, but the Palestinians are not willing to have peace. And they have used the media and their influence to echo this again and again and again and again. They will say that, oh, we wanted peace, but there was nobody to talk to. That was why we did this or we did that. And you ask yourself, if someone really wanted peace, if all a person was looking for was peace, will they go around provoking their neighbors? If someone was sincerely and honestly looking for peace, will those people do things that cause more trouble than peace? If Israel was really honest with themselves, their authorities, they would not have been building illegal settlements. They would not have been encroaching on Palestinian lands. They would not have been subjecting the Palestinians in West Bank like second-class citizens. They will not be building an apartheid state in the West Bank. All these actions that they have taken for some time now doesn't really show that they want peace. It doesn't show that. It just go ahead to cement the narrative that they want the whole of the land for themselves, from the River Jordan to the sea, as most people will put it. That Israel wants all this land for itself. And their hardline authorities are making sure that that comes to pass. Israel has never wanted peace. Many people have come to realize it now. Israel has done its best. Their authorities, they have done their best to sabotage all the peace deals that have been put in place. There was a video I shared with you before where Barack Obama said that he tried. That many people will ask that, why didn't you do something for the Palestinians when you were in the White House? And he said that he really tried. But there was no willingness from both sides to participate in a peace deal. And how can you solve a problem if the people involved in this problem are not willing to even listen to you? Trump said the same thing. And Trump is seen as someone who was really in favor of Bibi, as someone who loved Bibi, as someone who had an Israel first policy. But even Trump said it, that Bibi has never, ever been willing to have a frank and honest discussion with the Palestinians. He has never, ever been willing to really solve this problem. The same thing with Clinton. They all said it. Israel will go out there, we use Western media and Western influences to spread their one-sided story and let everyone think that the Palestinians or Hamas was the main problem why they couldn't have peace in the Middle East. And the Western media, the mainstream media, will echo this again and again and again. And that same level of media airtime will not be given to the Palestinian side to also share their own side of the story. They won't have that same level of media coverage that Israel will get. So all we will get to hear is what Israel wants us to hear. That is just it. We will never get to hear what the Palestinians want us to hear, or at least their own version of the story. We will never get to hear that. All we hear is exactly what Israel wants us to hear. And that has been the problem. But after the horrific atrocities committed by Hamas on the 7th of October, many people are now waking up and asking the real question: why has there not been peace in the Middle East? Why has Israel and Palestine not able to have peace? Why has Israel been building illegal settlements? Why are Israeli settlers harassing, abusing, and pushing the Palestinians away from their properties? And why is nobody doing anything to help resolve this issue? Why? So these are the questions everyone is asking. And thank God to social media, we can now hear both sides of the story. The Palestinians are telling us their own side of the story, likewise the Israelis. So we can now make an informed decision as to what exactly is going on. So the bottom line is, the Palestinians hardliners believe that all the land belongs to them. Likewise, the Israelis hardliners also want all this land for themselves. And the both parties have never ever been willing to openly discuss a rational resolution or settlement to this problem. That has been the main reason why we are still having this problem up till now. And let me leave you with this. I believe this problem can be resolved because let's be rational here. Okay, let's face reality. Israel is not going anywhere. The Israelis are not going anywhere. Likewise, the Palestinians are not going anywhere. Those two peoples must inhabit the land, whether they like it or not, whether we like it or not. The earlier they both realize that, the better. Hamas won't be able, even if they wanted, to remove Israel. It's never going to happen. Israel can never ever feel safe if Hamas is still angry, if Palestinians cannot get their state. It's just a problem that they must resolve. And this problem needs a frank and honest conversation. There have to be a dialogue between these two peoples. There have to be a frank and heartfelt conversation. Not just the one that Netanyahu will come up with and then sabotage. No, not that one that just go around to waste people's time. That's not it. It has to be frank, it has to be from the heart, and they have to be serious about it. If they keep on kicking this can down the road, thinking that somehow it will just get resolved, then they are really wasting their time. Because if there's one thing that this incident on the 7th of October has taught us, is that no problem ever get resolved by itself. People must have to solve it. It will never ever get resolved by itself. But you guys out there, let me know your take on this whole issue between Israel and Palestine. And what do you think about the thoughts and opinion from this student and how Ben responded to it? Share that with us in the comment section below, because like always, we love hearing what you have to say. So thank you very much for doing just that. And like always, see you in the next one.